Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Pegi Robinson. Today's guest is Mary McDermott. And Mary was on a week ago, but had a lot of comments in the audience wanting more details about her near-death experience. So Mary's agreed to come back on and delve a little deeper in the details. So thank you,
Thank you for having
Mary.
me. Thank you for having me back. Happy to be here.
So if
So
anybody
the
hasn't heard this, they can go back a week ago and listen,
exactly.
so you don't have to repeat it. So if you could kind of start at when you picked this, I don't want to say picked him up, when you guys left the house, beach house, surfer
Okay.
house, what do you want to call it?
Right,
From,
that's exactly what it was.
and then, and
Yes.
if I feel like you're starting to go a little fast, I'll kind of slow you down and ask questions.
Okay, no worry.
Okay.
So it was Christmas Eve day, very gray, cold, steely kind of a day. There was nobody out. This part of New Jersey is very deserted. Even in the summertime, it'll get a little bit busier, but in the wintertime, it's absolutely a ghost town. So on Christmas Eve day, my mother had asked me to not be home, not be in the house, and I had nowhere to go. So I went to my boyfriend's house, who it was a surfer, and I surfed. We all loved the ocean, and there were a lot of guys that came in and out and stayed there occasionally. He had a big house, but we all knew each other except for this one new surfer guy. And I had asked John about him, and I said, "Who is he, and where is he from?" And he said, "Oh, he was a local. He moved away, but he's back now, and he's one of us." So I said, "Okay." I said, "All right." I didn't really feel 100% safe with him like I did with all the other guys. I said, "But okay." I took his word for it. And that day we took a ride to South Jersey. I was going to go by myself. He was at the house when I got there. The house was empty except for this one guy, the surfer that I did not know very well. And I said, "Listen," I said, "I thought John might be here. The house is freezing. There's no heat. There's no food." I said, "I'm not going to stay here. He's probably with his family," which is where he was. And I said, "I'm going to take a drive and kill some time." And he said, "Do you mind if I go?" And I said, "No." I said, "It's okay." I said, "I'm going to drive straight down. We can look at the scenery." And I said, "I'm going to come right back in time for 5 o'clock." And we proceeded to this lovely destination. Actually, it was Cape May. And along the way, it was seagulls and wild grass and deserted roads. And the day was like a beautiful, cold, icy gray, but there was a little bit of a beauty to it as well. So we had the windows open, and he was talking, and sometimes he would just laugh erratically, like to himself. And I said, "That's kind of weird." But I said, "Hey, when I get back," I said, "I'm never going to see him again unless I'm in a big group with the guys." I said, "It's not really a big thing." But we did get down to South Jersey, and I needed to get gasoline. And that's when I stepped out of my car, and the only gas station around had a man inside he had just turned the light out. And I said, "Sir," I said, "please, it's Christmas Eve." I said, "Here's $10 cash. I'm going to run to the ladies' room." And I said, "We'll be out of here in minutes flat." And so he proceeded to put gas in the car. I went to the ladies' room. And while I was in the ladies' room, Tom had gone into the back seat and gotten out a bottle of whiskey I had for a Christmas present for my sister and her husband. And not only had he gotten that out, he had drank half of it and was sitting in the driver's seat, and the bottle was between his legs. And I came out and I said, "Oh gosh," the man was gone. The lights were off. I looked at a payphone and I said, "I'd really like to have somebody come pick me up from home." I said, "That's not going to happen. They don't care. They didn't want me to be home. They're certainly not going to drive 2.5 hours down to get me. What do I do with my car?" It was just, so I said, "Tom," I said, "You're not supposed to be in the driver's seat. You don't have a driver's license," he had mentioned. And he said, "Get in or I'm going to leave you here." So I got in. And as we were driving, he had turned the radio up very high. And I said, "Listen, I turned it down." I said, "We have to kind of concentrate. There were no roads. There were road markers, but no signs. It was deserted, no buildings, no houses. And it was starting to get dark, and I was starting to get a little nervous. I said, "Let's concentrate on heading north and east." And we were heading south and west. And he didn't like the fact that I had turned the radio down. So he hit me with the back of his hand. And I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. It happened in a split second, and he had never turned his head. He had just kept driving, and it was one of those. So I didn't have time to defend myself. And my lip split open, and I didn't realize until I felt my face that I had blood running down my chin. And we were stopped by a police officer, and he was driving erratically and speeding. And the police officer said, are you lost? What's going on? And I had a jacket with a kind of a high collar on it. And I said to myself, I said, if I say anything now, it's going to delay me getting home. I'm going to be taken to a police station. He's going to be taken. And again, I'm going to have to have somebody come and get me. So my logic was, let me just say as little as possible so I can get home as fast as possible.
Because you probably thought that one hit was it, like.
I did think that was it. And I said, I'm not going to say anything. I'll use diplomacy. Let me try and get myself out of this situation and home. The officer gave us directions. And again, Tom headed in the wrong direction once again. And that was when he was looking for a place to kill me. He had pulled into a cul-de-sac, which he thought was going to be completely empty. There was a little bit of a new construction sign. Some new dirt had been turned up.
Was he saying that then at that time, I'm going to kill you?
He had said he was going to kill me. Yes, he was going to kill me, and he was going to kill my family as well. And I was scared beyond belief. And he had pulled into the cul-de-sac, and there were construction guys on top of a roof working under floodlights on Christmas Eve, which I thought was the first miracle. That never happens. I could hear them, and I could see the lights, and I could see the guys, and there were trucks, and it was a brand new housing development. But the guys were on the roof, and he just sped out of there as fast as he could because there were people around. And he kept driving, and that was when he went around a wooden barricade. And he slammed on the brakes about halfway down this road, and it was sparse on both sides. And it's now about 10 o'clock at night, 10:30, pitch dark, before cell phones, so I couldn't call for help. And in my dream on Thursday, 2 nights before, the dream had told me, lock your door. And at the time, I was in a nice little apartment, and I woke up and I said, I locked my door. I said, it must have just been something random. But what they were trying to tell me was lock the car door, because he had jammed it into park and run around the front. And had I been able to lock the door, actually my door first and then his door, I would have been able to jump into the driver's seat and make a getaway. I was so nervous, and the car was old, and I had just recently acquired it. I wasn't that familiar with it, and I couldn't get the lock closed. So
I'm sure he ran fast too to get over there.
That's correct. And I thought maybe he was going to the bathroom, like I couldn't put everything together. But he ripped the door open, and that's when he came and he knelt on me. And he was a bigger guy for being a surfer. He was not a typical surfer, thinner kind of a body. He was a bigger, bulkier guy. Although he did have blonde hair and blue eyes, but that was it. And he knelt on me, and he grabbed my hair by the side of my head, and he twisted it, and I could hear my trachea scratching upon itself. And he ripped the hair out of my head as he was doing so, and he was hitting me at the same time. And every time he hit me, I saw a little white light, a little blue light. And I said to myself, keep opening your eyes. I said, as long as you open your eyes after every blow, you're still alive. I said, just keep opening your eyes. Every time he hit me, I would close it from the force of the impact, but I would open them immediately right after. And I said, when you stop opening your eyes, that's when it's going to be over. So he said, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill your whole family. I'm going to throw you in the ravine, and nobody will ever find you. And I said, what can I do to help you? I said, what can I do? Is there anything I can do? How can I get myself out of this situation? How can I appease this man? There was nothing I could do. And I said to myself, I had two thoughts. I said, one is, I'm never going to see my mother again. And we weren't that close, but she was the one I thought of at first. Yeah. And then I said, nothing matters. I said, in life, I was 28 at the time, and it was all about career and getting ahead and being the best at what I did and my ambition. And I said, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. And those are and my other thought was, nobody's going to find my body out here. I said, they won't, but they won't find it. And as I mentioned last time, I had worked in a police station after this, and we had a woman's bones found in an area just like the area I was in, because they were starting construction on new homes in the area. And I said, that would have been me. So in the middle of all this darkness, two headlights came out of the opposite direction.
Now,
And
before this, did you see yourself from above?
not yet.
Okay,
Not yet.
sorry.
That's okay. Not yet. The boys came, a car came, and it startled him enough to get off of me.
Okay.
And he tried to make it look like we were just having like a car trouble moment. And I ran around him and I ran into the road. And I said, I'd rather be hit by a car. At least somebody will find my body. I wasn't worried about the pain. I wasn't worried about anything. I put my hands over my head and I pretty much let the headlights come closer and closer and closer and closer. And when they got very close to me, they went around me and kept going. And I watched a couple of these near-death experiences, and that's not uncommon. People are afraid of the girl if she's bleeding. And this car went around me. And I said, I might as well just run after it. I have no other hope or choice. And I did. I started to run after the car, and Tom started to run after me. And the headlights were getting smaller, smaller, smaller. And he had knocked my glasses off, and I just kept running. And all of a sudden they stopped. And I ran up to the car and I banged on the side window. I said, let me in, let me in, let me in. And the boy did. And I jumped on his lap. And they said, do you want us to wait for your friend? And I said, no, no, no. I said, he's trying to kill me. I had trouble talking because my teeth had been rearranged and my lip was swollen and I was bleeding and I was having trouble getting the words out of my mouth. And I just said, go, go, go. And we took off. And then I looked around and I said, I'm in even more trouble now because these two guys are going to kill me instead of just one. They were in leather jackets. They had the gauges. There were some kind of weird items in the middle of the passenger seat. It looked like a box of nails. Something wasn't right, I thought. And so this time I looked over at the handle and I said, what kind of a handle is this? I said, I'm going to pull it. I'm going to jump out. And I said, I don't care. I'm going to take a run for it through the woods. I said, that's it. And just as I was about to do that, that boy said to the boy I was sitting on, he said, tell her who we are. And he said, we're Earth Angels. And we have rescued people before. And you are now going to go on and rescue someone in your future, just like we rescued you. And I saw from hanging from the rearview mirror a cross, and it had Jesus on it. And it seemed to have a light of its own from somewhere. And I relaxed a little bit. And they said, but we have to get you to the hospital. And I said, I can't go to the hospital. I said, he knows where I live. He's going to go right to my house and kill my family. I said, I have to get home. And this is the part where you were asking about the out-of-body experience. They said, look, we're AA guys. This is a little bit much for us. We're going to go. We need to get a coffee at 7-Eleven. And we think you need something as well to calm you down. We go into 7-Eleven and we were being stared at by the girl behind the counter and by the one or two people who were in there. And I couldn't, the boy bought me a cup of tea. They were so sweet. I said, I can't. I said, look at my face. I can't. While I was in the 7-Eleven, I said to the boys, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be alive. I'm supposed to be dead. And they were like, what do you mean? And I said, this is when I went back to the scene and I was on the other side of the road and I was looking at myself. And the way I can describe it is if you're on the highway and there's an accident on the side of the road, you observe. You're observing, oh, what happened over there? And I was an observer, but I was observing myself. I was observing my body and it was dead and he kicked it and it was just prior to him pushing it off into the ravine. And I have blonde hair and I had a red coat and jeans and the night was black and my face was facing the woods. And my essence though was pure. It was undisturbed. It was at peace. even though I was observing that horrific situation, my essence, the essence inside of me was fine. And everything at that moment was fine. I was fine. The part of me that will continue after this life is fine. It's like a white, beautiful light. It was whole. I had form, but there was a peace and an observation. And I was observing myself. And it was almost like two realities. That's what should have happened. But the boys came and it didn't happen. So it took me a little while to branch those two together, those two very different realities, and how close I came to being dead. Shortly after, the boys offered to drive me all the way home, but the one boy said, I can't. My mom will probably want me home on Christmas Eve. And we went into his house, and that's when I tried to fix my hair, and half of it came off, and I threw it over the railing. I hoped he wouldn't find it into the grass. And he said to his mom, look, this girl has just been beaten up. Can she use the phone? And the mother said, of course. And I called Tom, no answer. So I called John. I said, John, Tom just tried to kill me. I said, can you get to my house and make sure my mother's not there or no, anybody's not there? I said, in case he shows up. And I said, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. And he said, I'll head over there right now. And he said, we'll talk when you get here. So that was fine. And then the next boy had to let his parents know. He was the one driving me all the way home. And when we went in the door, there was his father was on the couch watching TV by a fireplace, and his mom was making cookies. And I said, oh, this is weird. I said, this is a scene from my future life. And I did. I ended up marrying a wonderful, wonderful man. And I had read stories about girls who had had horrific childhoods, which I had had. I'd been raped of my virginity at 14 and bullied in school and no family support whatsoever. I couldn't even tell them of either one until the teacher called and said I had been being bullied for 2 years. It's the only way my mother found out. So here I meet this wonderful man, and subsequently he ended up passing away from cancer. But having gone through this situation gave me the strength to handle everything that would come after. So the boy drove me home, and John was there, and we went back to his house. And my mother had gotten home from church, and she called me and said, are you okay? The Fort Dix police are on the phone. They have Tom, they have your car, and they want you to come back and make a written statement. And I said, yes, Mom. I said, he tried to kill me. I said, but I will go back. And I went back and I made a statement, and I didn't get home until about 4 o'clock in the morning on Christmas morning. And I went to work 2 days later, and I said to my mom, I said, what am I going to tell my office in New York City? She said, just tell them you were in a car accident. And I did. And these poor men, I was the only female in the office. I was a translator for Japanese. These poor Japanese men were so concerned for me. And that's what I told them. And that's what they believed. And they were very, very tender. And I made the decision to take Tom to court. And my mother did not support it. She said, they're going to call you all kinds of names for going for the ride with someone that you didn't know very well. I said, Mom, I said, what if there's no car for the next girl? What if there's no boys coming back from an AA meeting who wanted to see the stars on that night on that very, very, very dark road? I said, what about that? I said, let me get it on record. So I represented myself in court. Tom was there. There was no testimony on his side, just mine. And I found that I was the third person that had been assaulted. The first two were men. I was the third. And he was given a very light sentence in my eyes. And then he left the state. And that was the end of Tom.
Okay. A lot of people ask me questions and I don't understand. I know everywhere's different about why didn't the police? Do you know why they didn't do this? Why did you have to take it upon yourself to bring him to court?
Oh, I have no idea. You mean the police who arrested him?
Like you made a statement that night, but then you
correct.
had to take it upon yourself. Like, yeah, why didn't they do something?
That is very correct. I mean, it was an earlier time, an earlier era. Maybe it was a little bit more free for all. I mean, now they probably would be on top of it, but you're right. Nobody suggested it. Nobody said anything. I think they looked at me, which is very common, sort of a victim. What were you doing with this guy on Christmas Eve day on a dark road? You know, he was drunk. And a lot of times it falls onto the female. And my intentions had been completely opposite. It was just to kill some time and to get home and to go there and back. But you're right, it fell upon me, and there was no support at all.
Because
From
this is what, like 20 years ago?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there anything else you wanted to add before I go on? Because I have some things interest me about your
Oh
story.
no, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, besides the details, we got that out of the way for the audience sake. What I'm really interested in now that I myself fully understand your story is the fact, because I've had this happen to me, the fact that you were like at two realities at once.
Yeah,
Isn't that mind-blowing?
it is mind blowing. It is mind blowing to know that there's more to us than what you see. There's more to us, and the inside of us is indestructible. It goes on. It lives on. And so few people could know that or could even imagine that it's pure and it's whole and it's light and it's peace and it's beauty and it's indestructible. No matter what's done to our outsides, that inside nobody can touch it. It's untouchable. It's beauty and strength and power and peace all wrapped into one. And I saw it, I felt it.
And it's like the other side, because during my second NDE, I saw my kids in the future, but they look the same age, but they were discussing the fact that mom has died.
Oh,
But you know, obviously I came back.
right.
But I seen that immediate future because I asked God, I said, you know, as I said before so many times, but you know, if you could look in the future and you see that, I said, well, you're omniscient. I knew from God. I said, God, I know you're omniscient. So if you look in the future and you see my boys would be better off without me, for whatever reason, I agree to stay. And then I saw the future and my boys was horribly upset. And so as you're saying that, I'm like, you know, it's so strange that we can see a future that didn't happen.
Exactly.
And during my 5-year-old drowning, there was a little bit when I was still at the bottom of the pond before I raised up and all this stuff happened. There was this little tiny thing I saw of the future. I imagined, because I say that, I imagined, because what else would I call it, right? That I could imagine that my family, because I figured I would stay down the bottom of this pond forever, that I could see them in our station wagon with the 4 kids, not me, because I made 5, and my parents going down the road and them all looking over at the pond and the kids saying, that's where Peg is. Like they would always say that, you know, so often when they drove by that pond, that's where Peg is. I thought that's where it'd always be. And I saw that as if it was really happening. And
see?
so you say that, and it just strikes my curiosity about the other side in these alternative realities.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's so much more than we can see. We can feel it. And we were there. We were there. And many people have been there. It's real. It's amazing.
It's real.
It's amazing.
It's real.
It's real. Some say it's more real than here.
And the only, I think, there might be more I could think of later, but what I'm thinking of right now is another time I'm remembering is 7 years ago. I woke up one morning and I was just like upset about, you know, my whole PTSD and, you know, my past and everything. And I felt like I was waving this white flag, like I surrender, I give up, I'm never going to try anything, everybody wins, you know. And all of a sudden I saw a vision and I was above looking down at myself, walking through a creek. And I believe it's our creek here at town because I was at home at the time. I was in our camper because my husband was working away. And I'm bent over and I'm picking up these bits of light out of the creek. And all of a sudden I had this knowledge come to me, like this aha moment. Oh, I get it. I have been sweeping the spiritual stuff under the rug just along with abuse, just the same. That I needed to start talking about the spiritual stuff, but I had to talk about the bad so people could appreciate it. Like you couldn't
Oh,
talk about one without the other.
correct.
Like the two of them together made the story, made my life.
Absolutely.
Like it wasn't all bad. And it wasn't all this wonderful that I wasn't talking about. But so I just grabbed a laptop, so I write my book, and I had it done 3 months. But it took that vision to come and it was of the future. It was that's something that never happened. It was like I was above watching it, and so this stuff, whether anybody else gets it or not, fascinates me.
Absolutely.
Fascinates me that you could see what would happen if those guys didn't come along.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I wonder which reality is real. Which one was, I guess the one that I'm here is the one that was supposed to happen. I just, it's still a question, but I'm happy
Yeah.
to be here.
Just seeing like branches on a tree, how they go off, and they go off, they
Exactly.
go off, they go off.
Exactly.
Like it could go this way, it could go that way, but they all lead. It's one solid trunk. It's the way my
Absolutely.
mind sees things.
That's exactly how it is. And I used that because in the future, my lovely husband passed away early from cancer right after my parents. My house was foreclosed. And then my daughter and I swam through a window Hurricane Sandy and lost everything all over again. So I came to that exact same place of having nothing. And it's okay. I was said to myself, it's okay because I'm going to use the pain for a purpose. I have to form a narrative. I have to formulate some sort of a framework, like you're saying, to bridge the spiritual and the traumatic and make that into something beautiful. And that was my task. That was my job. And I hope I've succeeded by helping others. That's the way I channeled all of it because it was overwhelming. But knowing that inside everything is fine and everything will continue to be fine on the other side, and our loved ones are fine on the other side, the peace is what made it all possible.
That's something. It's like creativity is the answer. When
Correct. You
we're
have
in pain and suffering and we can't find a way out, creativity is the rescue.
absolutely, absolutely. It's almost required. It's required to create a narrative, a framework for your life that you can use to move forward. And whether you turn it into help others, turn it into artistic, we were talking about art, writing, music. It's not baggage, it's wisdom. And use it to give back to the world. You have to turn it into something good. And that's the creative, that's the strength, and that's where you take your power back as well. These things didn't happen to me. Yeah, they kind of did. They did. But at the same time, I'm going to take these ingredients and make them into something really good. And that's what you do.
I'm picturing when there's a fire and it replenishes the ground and flowers grow.
That's it. That's it. Nothing to be afraid of. That rebuilding. Absolutely. A lot of strength in that. A lot of strength in that. There's an authenticity that comes from that you cannot get anywhere else until you've been broken to pieces and rebuilt yourself. There's an authenticity that people are drawn to. They can't really put their finger on it, but it's worth it. It's worth it to rebuild. It's worth it to take the time for yourself, small steps, a minute at a time. And you can take an hour at a time. If you need to break down, perfectly fine. It's like a garden. Weed it. Don't live there. Take care of it. If you have to go back and take care of it, go back. You just can't live in that garden. You can go back and take care of it every so often. You can go back twice a day. Just keep going forward and keep growing. There's the beauty that comes from the pain.
And it's like the pain to the point where we feel we're at the end of the road, that we can't go further because something is so tragic, something's went on for so long, or something happened so horrible, and it totally shatters our world, and we feel we're left with nothing. And then we know in our core, we have got to find a bit of light in this darkness and keep going and pull something out, because it's just life. I mean,
Absolutely.
it
And
has
like
to
you
go
were
on.
saying, you saw a scene from the future. There might be a contract, a soul plan for your life. So you have to hang in there. The beauty might be around the corner. It might be 1 second before the miracle. So you have to hang in there.
I've
We
come to
don't
look
know.
at it as you don't stop watching a movie right at the worst part when the
Yeah,
character has the, you want to see how they come out of it. And then
exactly.
rejoice at the end what they did
Yeah,
with it,
exactly.
We can't
And
just
you're
like give up at the worst time. We got to get creative with this movie, which is our life, and rewrite the ending.
absolutely, absolutely pull from everywhere. We're not the first to have gone through something traumatic, so we can learn from those who came before us and then help those who come behind us. So you're just a part of a beautiful story and to share like what we're doing now, to help other people.
I love the stories where people, I feel bad for, of course, but say they've lost a child, they've lost another child, lost another, and you think, how could they go on? And they end up having triplets or something.
Exactly.
It's just like they wouldn't have had this. I actually had a guest like that. I think it was twins. It was beautiful family now. They look like they're picture perfect family, but then you hear the guy. They lost two children. They were both born with a rare illness, and one died, and then the other one died,
Yeah.
and they went on and had twins. And you
Oh,
just look at them on Facebook. Oh, this beautiful family, like they just had
right.
everything
True.
given to them. You don't
That's
know.
true. That is so true. The beauty, like you said, can come from the ashes, from the fire.
I
That is
remember seeing
so
an Oprah
true.
show one time, and there's this family on there. I think they lost their whole family in a car wreck. Their children, they lost their whole family of children in a car wreck. And I think it was a drunk driver, and I think that was the purpose of the show. And they went and had more children.
Wow.
Like, how do
It's
you
strange.
rebuild? You
Absolutely.
just
And like you
do.
said, these stories can inspire other people. I've been inspired by stories of survivors who found the strength to keep going in spite of the childhoods that some people had. You had it and I had it. You dig down and you find the
Yeah.
beauty.
My picture of my dog there that got murdered a couple months ago. I went and bought a
Oh,
puppy at the pound. And
oh,
my cat drowned a few years ago. I went to the pound and got another cat. And my kids are always like, Mom,
oh,
I'm surprised you went so quick. And like, there'll always be others that need love. I
absolutely.
have love to
Absolutely.
give, and it was just taken from me. And I've got to give my love somewhere.
Me too.
You
Me
know,
too.
and
Absolutely.
people that can't have kids. I'm like, have you thought about foster care? Have you thought about adoption?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything in schools, there's always children, in need. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Monitors,
like you're,
volunteers.
school nurse. There's always
Right.
kids.
Always. Reading time. There's so many things people can do to be around children. Absolutely. And to give and have their spirit replenish. That's helped me heal a lot, was being around children. They're sweet. They're innocent. They don't judge. They're very giving. So I found, even though I was taking care of them, they were actually taking care of me, and they didn't know it. Just being around their innocence and beauty and their joy and their enthusiasm and their optimism for the future. So I said, wow, I said, I need some of that. I said, so I applied it. It's very, very, it's reciprocal when you get in the right circles. It's really, really reciprocal. It's nice.
How long ago
Nice.
did your husband?
But he was 57 at the time, diagnosed with cancer, dead in 6 months. And like you say, he was one of those guys that you dream about. And it was right after my parents had passed away, so it was 4 years of just cancer and death and dying. And I was a nurse. I am a nurse, and I took care of them. And then my little house was foreclosed, and I'd only been in it 4 years, and I had just gotten it just right. And then my children and I moved, and we were swept away in Hurricane Sandy. And I just thought, wow, what do I do with all of this? How do I handle this? How do I create that narrative? And then I sought out a group of widows who we meet, and then our children had a separate group at the same time, and they met. So it was a lot of fortifying. So as long as you know you're not alone, some of the people had been widows longer, some were newer. The children had, some of them had lost siblings, or a parent, or a parent, or sometimes both parents. So that anything I needed to heal, the ocean, meetings, artwork, athletics, running, working, children, you can pull from everywhere and pull yourself together and make something beautiful out of anything and use it to turn around to help others. That's what helped me survive. I said, I can't carry all of this. It's too heavy. I said, let me give some of it away in either artwork or caring or singing or running, dancing. Let me get into the ocean. Let me travel. I said, I need to pull from the universe to help me with this and then give it back out. Keep the flow. There has to be a flow coming in and giving out. It has to be the fresh air, the fresh water, the change of weather has to happen. And then as long as you can do that and open your eyes after every minute, you'll be fine. You'll be good. We can make it.
Well, I appreciate you coming back on and clarifying. And like, I didn't get that. I thought before the guys picked you up, you was out of body and you saw him kicking your lifeless body. And then you was in the car with him. You were running after him. And so I think a lot of people thought that too, like, okay, you're out of body, like he killed you. You're out of body. Like that was your near death experience. And you saw him kicking your lifeless body. I even wrote it up like that because that's the way I understood it. And then all of a sudden you were running after him. I'm like, oh, she went back to her body? Like, and so I didn't understand.
Yeah, that's what out of body is. You're separated from your body.
Yeah, but I thought it happened before you got in the car with the men. When he was beating you and pulling your hair and knocking your teeth loose and you were laying on the road, I thought that's when you went out of body and saw him kicking you to see if you were still alive. I didn't realize it was later. I didn't hear it even 7-Eleven even.
I know. Yeah, I was speaking so quickly. I think I rushed ahead and ran over and rushed over it. Yeah, I'm never really sure if people are truly interested in the details. When you asked me, I said, wow, I really need to share all of it and more of it.
I had questions at the time, but I didn't want to pressure you because you got pretty teared up when you were talking about so afraid they was going to go hurt your family.
Yeah.
And I just felt it was really still raw for you. And I didn't want to pick apart for details.
That's okay. That's totally fine. Yeah, recounting it is not easy, believe it or not, even after all this time. It's not easy. And even on Christmas Eve nights, I reflect. And I'm still kind of cautious for my safety. I am street smart, I guess you could say. But it doesn't go away. You just learn to carry it in a healthy way. So, yeah, it definitely is still a part of me. And I try and use it for healthy awareness, for my safety, and for others.
Yeah, I think I'm hyper vigilant. Like
yeah,
always.
You would have to. All right.
Once you've been in a situation and you wonder why, how did I get in this situation? Because we blame ourselves. And we exactly. Because we didn't do this. Somebody violated our trust.
Exactly.
And not that we were really trusting them, we just didn't know this would happen. And so something
and it's not unusual to have a family situation that's not supportive. That's not really talked about, but a lot of issues start at home. And had I had a supportive family, I wouldn't have been out looking for something to do. So I would have been home wrapping presents, maybe like a normal family. So if that isn't going on, you're at a complete disadvantage on the holidays, especially, but on any other day, actually. So you just don't have that built-in support system. You don't have the self-esteem. You don't have the tools. So I had to teach myself the tools to.
I wish investigators would understand that better, that some victims, clients, whatever they are, that don't know how to take care of themselves because nobody took care of them. They may know how to take care of everybody else, but when it comes to them, they're completely lost and blank and have no tools in that toolbox. And I think they need to recognize, ask some questions about family support in the past and currently to see maybe they have some special needs and understanding how they need to take care of themselves, are worthy of speaking out, to know how to speak out, because you never had a supportive family, you may not have the words to say, I am hurting. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to express this. I don't know how to talk and tell people problems because I was never allowed to before.
Right.
And I don't know how they can identify that.
Right. And I wasn't even taken to the hospital, as I mentioned last time. And I went to the doctor a few months later for an unrelated issue, and still half the head of my hair was missing in my teeth. And she counted the contusions that were still on my head. And she said, "Why didn't you come in?" And I said, I didn't even know. I said to my mom, "Do you think we should go?" She said, "No, yeah, you'll be fine." And
Well, your mom
you
told
learn
you,
to.
your mom told you like you shouldn't have got in the car. You shouldn't have been with a drunk person. You shouldn't report because you did this, you
Right.
did that.
Right. So yes, a lot of emphasis on the girl's part and nothing on the guy's family past that would have created the violence in him. You know, what was his situation like? What were his parents like? What were his siblings like? What was his childhood like? That obviously affected him in a very bad way. I was his third assault.
And he was off his medication, lithium or
That is
something.
correct. Right. He was on lithium for schizophrenia. Yeah.
Got a bottle of alcohol. So
Exactly. It's like a superhuman strain. Right. Very, yeah. How do you see?
So I blocked a few viewers that got very judgmental. But I
What do
get
you
that
mean?
not just you, other guests too. I'll block them. They'll get very judgmental. My guests, it's like, how can you watch these type stories and not feel compassion for the guest?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How many, oh, I've watched every one of yours, like, and you learn nothing about compassion.
Wow.
You didn't
Wow.
hear, the crack in her voice. You didn't hear what happened to her. They just want to hear the NDE. Somebody said, isn't this about near-death experiences? I just want to hear about near-death experiences. I don't want to hear about trauma and abuse. Like, we'll
Oh,
find another channel.
absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, every NDE come from a trauma. They didn't come from, I
Right.
don't know.
Right. And people think it can't happen to them, you know, and it can happen.
Yeah. And I can't imagine just caring about the NDE and not caring about the person.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. That's the whole part of it.
That would be
Whole
like a
part
child
of
coming
it.
to you and they're bleeding and you're like, why didn't you
Right.
do your math homework?
Exactly.
Why are you late for
Exactly.
school today? The focus is on something
Right.
ridiculous.
Absolutely. No, you have to, yeah, treat the whole person and see the whole story, read the whole story, listen to the whole story. Yeah. It has a beginning and you're seeing the middle, and there's actually the story continues to write itself. That's also part of the journey.
And the miracles are in the details. Just
Absolutely.
like where you had that vision of this alternate reality, this would have happened if they hadn't come along. And you've seen it in this like bliss state or as if it was, real. And they are real. That, it's as real as when I saw, these visions or during an NDE or not even an NDE. And they come to us. And I think it's important that people recognize these and not
Absolutely.
dismiss them.
Absolutely. There's so many of us now. It's hard to dismiss. And there's similarities of being whole and off the ground a little bit and pure and observing. So we're not alone.
It's, to me, that is a peek into heaven, what heaven is like when we can see the similarities in like what you and I are talking about in this alternate reality of this vision of the future. If those people didn't come along,
Absolutely.
and I don't know how long I was under the water, in the pond. My mom I remembered it after the second ND, and she's, oh yeah, that happened. And by the time she got down there to the pond, and I'd seen him from above, you're putting lotion on, sitting there talking to my sister. And then I didn't see the rescue. So when I remembered all this, I says, how did you find me? And I says, well, I had two questions. Did I drown? I said, no. And how did you find me? She says, yeah, you did. And she said, I looked around, I didn't see you, so I told your brother John, said, asked him, said, where's Peg at? And she says, you go to where you saw her last and you keep diving down there till you find her. So
Wow.
when he found me, he carried my dead body up. And I remember coming to and coughing up water and stuff. And so,
Wow.
how long was I gone? But I had the same thing. I had this like a scene of the future. What would it be like if I stayed above that pond, just this dead girl above the pond, feared I'd never
Wow.
be found. But it wasn't
Wow.
like just, it seemed so real, like I saw the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Almost like they call it an alternative reality. But I think, I don't know, parallel reality, I have to investigate that a little more. But like you said, the branches of the tree, decisions, or people at the right place at the right time, or your soul contract, what you're here to do. And, you need to stay to fulfill it. And the universe will make sure that you stay until you do. And then you see like people like my husband who passed away and other people, was their job done? I would have to believe yes, whatever their job was, why they were here is finished. To have an effect on me, the children or people around him, that was his job had come to an end.
And just NDEs or OBEs or spiritual experiences, there's so much more that people, if they recognize, they're just as much miracles. I have heard so many people say things like, I've never had an NDE or anything like that. I'll tell you something, one weird thing happened. And it'll be something like they were about to be hit by a truck and the truck just went right through the car and nothing happened.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're like, to this day, I can't tell you how that happened.
Oh,
And it's just like, or they'll say it's just like they picked them up out of a situation and put them back down. Or they woke up in this field and here's the car totaled. They don't know how they got in this field.
so true. So true.
And we have so many miracles that we're just not talking about because it's so taboo. It's so weird. We don't have answers. But to me, they're all glimpses into what God can do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We
Absolutely. Absolutely. What he can do. Yeah, because I still go to church all the time, but I was going to church in St. Patrick's Cathedral and just praying all the time on my lunch hour. So you just don't know how prayer can help as well. I do believe in it. I believe in angels. And you hear stories of angels pushing people up from the bottom of the ocean and they look around and they're pushed onto the beach. And they look around and there's nobody there. So the angels are real, prayer's real. It all helps. Things we can't see are.
Yeah, or they're swimming and like they've been like arms tore off, legs tore off, whatever, and then they're told, a voice tells them, don't go that direction, go this direction.
That's exactly right.
And they follow the voice even though it makes no sense in their logic. They think this would be better, and that's where they're saved.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And even Mary Neal, her story, orthopedic surgeon that drowned, and she said when they found her body and she had this NDE and stuff, and they were in Chile, and there was a squad there, and she says there couldn't have been a squad there. There's an ambulance there. There couldn't have been where they were at in this jungle or whatever. It couldn't have been, but there was one there.
But it did. It did happen. It's amazing. Amazing. There's more to life than what we can see.
Yeah.
And we're here to share that, to show people, yeah, there's much more.
And so many of the NDEs, I catch on after a while that after their NDE, it's like, say they had 1% chance survival, 5%, whatever. And then they have such a fast recovery and they're back.
Right.
It's just
Doctors
like,
can explain it.
And doctors will say, I'm not religious, but that was a miracle.
Exactly.
You survived, or you recovered, or there's no more cancer on this, or and yeah, I get it. People say, well, why not my loved one? Why weren't they saved? Why are they suffering? Why did they suffer? And we don't know.
Right.
But I think we all have these kind of miracles that we are sweeping under the rug. And we're not taking them out. Like me going through the creek and I was picking up these bits of light, and it dawned on me, I think those bits of lights was like the miracles. Like I was finding them underneath the dark water. and picking them up and look at them, picking up, look at them. And then it's like, it was kind of like dim along its creek. And then it got brighter. And that's when like the light bulb come on in my head. Oh my gosh. I have been dismissing these miracles. I've been focusing on the abuse.
Oh.
They did this to me, they did that to me, this bad thing happened, this bad thing happened. And I knew these spiritual stuff, but who are you going to tell that? You couldn't focus on it. You had to forget it because it doesn't make sense. And I thought, oh no, I'm going to focus on it. And I have to get through and I have to tell the abuse so people will understand why this miracle is so significant.
Absolutely.
How
Absolutely.
I
That makes
was
perfect
rescued, how
sense.
I was saved, because I guarantee you they were too. And they're probably dismissing it too.
Absolutely. And right, same childhood, similar situations as yours. Right. Rescue happens. So true. So true. Beautiful.
It's like we can focus on, such gloominess and then forget the beauty that's all around us. A child's face, an old person's smile. I mean, it's just whatever. The kids, there's beauty everywhere. It's really easy to start feeling all dark and gloomy.
Right.
It
And I
is.
used to blame calendars for that because they show you the 30 days, but your 30 days aren't guaranteed. If you could bring that down to bringing the present moment, that's where the beauty is. The smell of a coffee, the sunset, but if you can stay in the moment, 30 days, people are, I'm going to do this, this, and this. That's not always guaranteed, those 30 days or the whole year worth. Let's go to next year, 2000, this or that. So if you can stay in the moment, you can catch more of the beauty around you without missing it, going so far ahead in a day, a week, a month, a year. If you can stay right here, there's plenty to notice. Stars, the air, the wind, raindrops on the leaves. I've taken photos of the very, very simple things in life. They're right here, right here.
We've got so many construction projects going on all at once right now. And I can get
Ah,
overwhelmed sometimes of, oh my
ah,
gosh. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm just drowning in this. So many things going on we don't have finished. And then I've learned to have attic. My husband built a deck off of it, and I can see like from third story, way over top this field, and I feel like I'm hovering, kind of like above when I was at
you,
the pond, after I
right.
drowned, and I was hovering, and so I go up there, and it's just beautiful view
Ah, it
of
sounds
the green
beautiful.
field and the trees. There's no drywall, wood
Right.
that needs stained or whatever.
No spackle.
It's like where you put
That's
your
nice.
focus.
That's exactly. That is so true. That is so true. And that will get done. It will get done. Yeah. Take time for yourself to enjoy the little things. Absolutely.
So is there anything else that you'd like to add we didn't get to cover?
I don't think so, unless there's more questions or
I
clarifications.
think that
My fault
was
entirely.
it. People
My,
kept bugging
my
me, and
fault
I
entirely.
usually don't. I just ignore them. But I thought, you know what? I have questions too, because I really felt like I didn't want to upset you.
Aw, I'm so
I
sorry
just
I was that way.
no.
Yeah.
Don't apologize. I just
Aw.
felt I didn't want to. I don't know. It just didn't feel right to push you for details, such a traumatic event. It's
Aw.
like in 2010, not far from my house, there was a tornado, and we were there helping people. And I had my phone, so there's a camera on there. I couldn't take pictures. It just didn't feel right.
That's it.
It didn't feel right to
That's
take pictures of people's heartache and this destruction, and everybody else going
absolutely.
through taking pictures. I can't do it. It would be
Right, right,
like if
right.
somebody just, got burnt or in a house fire or in a car wreck. No, I'm taking pictures for Facebook or something. It just didn't feel,
Aw.
and I kind of felt that
Aw.
way with yours.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, and I had so much to say, and you're right. You're right. I rushed through it, but I hope the beauty of the story came through. I hope it's useful to someone.
Well, thank you. Best of luck to
Oh,
you and your
okay. Thank you
family.
so much. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Bye bye.
Bye.